What's up? What's up? All right, we're gonna get started here in a second. Thank you for being here. I got my friend Lawless Turner coming in. We're gonna be talking about some real estate. We're gonna talk about some business, making sure that everyone can benefit from this conversation. We have these kind of talks all the time about, what we want to do in real estate and how to flip houses, what we want to do. But, we kind of have those conversations together. And so we want to make sure that this conversation benefits everyone who's in attendance. Lawless, you there? Let's see, waiting for the video to, let's see, yeah, there we go. Wait for it to split screen.
Hey, good
Lawless,
morning.
what's up,
Good
brother? How
morning.
you doing? How you doing? How you doing, man? Good,
Great, man. Good to see you.
man. Likewise. I'm glad we brought this together. We were talking last week, and the conversation was so good that we were like, man, people need to be involved in this conversation.
Absolutely.
So, right before I let you introduce yourself, these videos, I want to start off by saying the purpose of this video is to make sure that people are able to learn about business, maybe starting their own business,
Yeah.
and then also being able to understand that property, real estate, renting houses, developing houses, flipping houses, this information is not really available in a nice, concise explanation. I have it in my book, Read Rich, Stay Broke. For all the people who've read the book, you understand what I'm trying to describe. This knowledge, as me and you discussed before, is something that we hit upon as we continue to go through life. Someone mentioned it. We then decided to kind of peek a little bit over there ourselves. And what we discovered was that it was much more possible for us to flip houses, renovate houses, borrow money, hard money lenders or the bank. And in my book, I teach the fundamentals of debt, credit, and savings, allowing you to qualify to be able to then own property, own a business, own stocks. And that is a real formula to be able to build wealth. And I just wanted to dive a little deeper into business and real estate with you so that the audience can get a deeper understanding of what is possible for them.
Yes.
And that's kind of what I want to hit on today and share with everyone. So I'm really excited. Me and Lawless been knowing each other for a long time, man, over about
Yes.
20 years. We
Yes.
both graduated St. Augustine High School together.
Yes. In the illustrious Marching 100.
Yeah, we were in the band together. We played alto saxophone together. That's where we met. And I just want to say right quick, you're 2 years older than me, man, and in the band, I look up to you. You were my section leader.
Yeah.
We brothers now, we men, but when I was a
Yeah.
young man, the demeanor that you had, the intelligence that you had, the way you carried yourself, I looked up to you, man, and I really appreciate our relationship.
Thank you, Mark. I really appreciate that, man. It means a lot to me coming from you because you have a very strong character, which led you to become drum major, and I appreciate that, man. And like I said, man, I take it to the heart.
That's that's the brotherhood, that's the fraternity that we'll forever be from. That saxophone section in the March 100, the lessons that we learned in that at St. Aug and that institution, it helped us become the men that we are today. I can definitely say that the lessons that I learned in that band and the lessons I learned at that school turned me into, the beast.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so I'm
Absolutely.
gonna go ahead and let you introduce yourself. Tell us about your businesses. Tell us about your real estate, and then we'll kind of dive into some deeper questions so that the audience can learn more about how to, accomplish these things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. My name is Lawless Turner. I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm an investor. I'm a developer. I'm a real estate agent. And I actually have a brand, a beverage brand called June Magnolia. You know, just to give you a little bit of background, my investment company is called Fairgrounds Property Management. It's named after, an area of New Orleans. But, I started investing, you know, really over about 13 years ago, around 2009, and I bought a multifamily property. So that's where I began. I began collecting rent, and then I eventually I got into developing property. And I bought blighted property, in fact. And then developed those properties into commerce and sold them. and eventually got into becoming a real estate agent, where I've been able to help serve other folks out there who have been looking to buy multifamily houses, or even just their dream homes or condos. I've just sort of engaged fully into the real estate industry, uh, and so that's one aspect of what I'm into. Another aspect is the food and beverage space, and I started a brand called June Magnolia, the champagne of kombucha. It started off as a hobby, and now it's actually in a couple of stores, and we're scaling up to be nationwide. But it's a long story, a long journey, how I got into the food and beverage space. And we could talk a little bit
Definitely,
about that, but it really
definitely,
comes through my family, to be honest.
definitely. So let's dive into the real estate
Sure.
in the very beginning. I
Hmm.
think the biggest thing I want to get across in this conversation is the possibility.
Yeah.
I think that growing up, I know that I wasn't exposed to the fact that you can have rental property. It's interesting that I do that now, but I remember when I was younger, uh, the thought of being able to have more than one house never
Hmm.
even really entered my mind because in the American dream, we aspired to have, a house.
Yeah.
And so I remember thinking that, all the houses were owned. I
Hmm.
didn't even know about renting houses. We had apartments,
Right.
but I never knew that you could rent a house from
Hmm.
somebody. When I discovered that, I was like, what? Because you
Yeah.
can't, like, how do you get the money for one, let alone the money for two or three? And
Right.
I want to create the possibility of understanding here that there is a traditional way and then there's also an additional way to be able to acquire the money you need to be able to do real estate. Because I think sometimes people feel like they don't have enough or it's over their head or they can't get involved because I can't afford that. Well,
Right.
in real estate, there's something called hard money lending, and there's
Right.
also the ability to borrow a loan. So traditionally, you can get a loan for your mortgage, but you also, if you're an investor and you want to invest in property, it's not based on your own individual credit. It's really based on the deal. So if you learn, excuse me, if you learn how to analyze property,
Hmm.
if you learn how to put an offer in on a piece of real estate that you want to buy that you can't afford,
Hmm.
you can look at the deal, calculate how the deal will make money,
Hmm.
present it to a hard money lender or someone
Hmm.
who has more money than you,
Hmm.
show them how with
Hmm.
your skill plus their money, you can make a profit and split the profit with them and give them their money back. That makes real estate extremely possible for almost anyone because it's not based on you. I know that might not resonate because you've based everything usually when you're borrowing off of who you are and your personal credit. And if you're going to go to traditional right, yes, you need to learn read me or stay broke, come to my classes, DM me. I can teach you how to raise your credit. I can teach you how to make sure you're having a proper financial plan to put yourself in a place to qualify
Hmm.
for traditional debt, credit, savings, or make you qualify. But if
Hmm.
you're still struggling with those things and you're growing and building those things, that doesn't mean that you can't be in real estate
Right.
because you can definitely use a hard money lender to then be able to borrow the money you need to acquire property. Do you want to speak to hard money lending right quick? I want to make sure that's in the beginning here for people who, might not have a lot of time.
Right. 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 I, that it's a really important, as you get into real estate or as you grow in real estate, to really develop mindset of abundance. You know, a hard money lender evaluates the deal. You're gonna normally have to put up 20-25% of the total, renovation and acquisition of the product, right? So, um, and or if not, private lenders. These are people who, may have a job that allows for them to get high income, and so sometimes these individuals have money in the bank that's just making 0 point whatever percent. It's sitting in their savings account, and you can offer these, high income individuals a return on investment, 15% on their money, something a little bit more than what you can get a return from the stock market. So you want to use hard money lenders when you're doing your development projects. or private lenders. I mean, private high income individuals to use your money, and that really taps into having a mindset of abundance. That really money is all around us. You don't actually need to use your own money to develop property. You can use other people's money to develop property. I know that can be challenging in the very beginning because most people who are getting into real estate investment and development just don't have the confidence really just right out the bat. But through some years of being in the industry and just staying consistent and never quitting, you will develop a tough skin. So to use a hard money lender or a private lender, when you're using hard money lenders, again, you want to have at least 20% of whatever the total amount of the acquisition of the property plus the renovation of the property. So, just for simple math purposes, if a property costs $100,000 and it costs $150 to renovate, you're at $250,000 all in. About 25% of that, let's just say, we want to have about 25%. Different hard money lenders have different requirements. Some have a little lower. And if you're doing consistent deals, they'll even, lower your down payment even more because they know that you have a track record. But 25% of 250, what we're looking at around 50,000. So you may want to borrow that 50 from a high income individual that's in your sphere,
Yeah,
just to
I mean,
get the project started.
I want to say, even my mom helped me when I first was, when I'm doing my deals. You can ask people around. When you have the knowledge, right, people will help you. That's why I wrote Read Me or Stay Broke, because I feel like the difference between rich people and poor people is not money. The difference is money knowledge. So we both spend, but they spend on different things. They spend on income producing assets. So when you take the time to say, this is something I want to do, that's what we had to do. It didn't just happen to us. We're not just real estate experts. I mean, I'm from 7th Ward of New Orleans. I used to walk to school, catch the RTA. We regular guys. I served 5 years in the Air Force. I was turning wrenches as an airplane mechanic. And I used to listen to audiobooks about real estate while I was at work. I was working my plan B while I was still in plan A, living the American dream, trying to do it the traditional way. But something inside of me sparked the desire to want more. But the more I listened to books, the more confident I became. Like you said, you get your confidence. And so then you start to try. I remember the first time I called a real estate agent, and I want people to understand, it's like, there's nothing wrong with being like what we would say ignorant. Ignorance is not the same as stupid. Ignorance is not knowing something that you don't know. And you have to be willing to ask. You have to be willing to put yourself out there. I mean, some point in life, either by a movie or ourselves, we raised our hand in class and got the answer wrong, and everybody started laughing. And so for the rest of time, we don't want to look stupid. But seeking information and feeling stupid is two totally different things. And if you can get past that barrier of where you feel like just because you don't know something, or you're about to speak to somebody who might have more knowledge than you, and you're approaching it from an aspect of sounding like you know what you're talking about versus being comfortable with being like, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm here to ask you because I don't. And the more you do that, the more you will become confident, the more you will be able to engage in conversations. And then you will be able to show people who you need to borrow the money from to be able to do this, how to do this. We're going to get some more into the details of doing real estate, but this is the most important part. And I think this is the part that people look for the most. How do I get the money and how do I get deals? Because like you said, some people are in a situation where they don't qualify. And I call that financial discrimination. We're not taught financial education in school. We're not taught to flip houses, to own stocks. I mean, some schools do, but from what my experience and what I see as my children go to school, this is not a curriculum to become a financially successful adult. Something that we know we absolutely have to be. And so you have to seek this knowledge. And once you start to accumulate it, what you're going to discover is that you're more capable of understanding it than you previously thought you were. And doors and opportunities will be able to open up to you, and you will become the person that can do it. If you don't feel confident now, that's because you don't know what you need to know. But as you seek, as you listen to us, thank you for being here this morning. We're going to dive a little deeper, but the main two barriers I want you to be able to overcome out the gate is there is money out there. When you bring your knowledge and your understanding of what there is to do and how to do it, and you ask people how to do it while you're simultaneously asking people for the money, the two will meet and
Hmm.
opportunities will begin to open up for you. Do you agree?
I absolutely agree with that. Again, it starts with self, knowing that you have a golden mind. Knowledge is power. Um, as long as you know, you can make it happen. You know what I mean? And you just really got to believe in yourself. The money is out there. Um, and again, I look at money as a double entendre. Currency is how I look at it. It's either, it's money, it's currency can be exchanged monetarily, but currency is also energy. It's a root word of current. So, money is basically stored energy. So, if you're looking at a deal, it could be a distress. Most of the properties that I look for as a real estate developer are distressed properties. So you got to have vision, just at least the skill to have vision um, when you're involved in real estate development. You have to have that vision because you're going to look at properties that are, like I said, distressed, blighted, need some work. And so you have to go in it knowing that you can really make something valuable here. Um, and so that's what currency is. It's stored energy. So basically, you're just taking that stored energy and you're recreating value within a particular space. And someone is going to live in that home. Someone's going to raise their families in these homes. And so, basically, you're creating value in the world when you
Exactly.
are a real estate developer.
Exactly. You bring in value. All right, so let's jump into a couple questions.
Hmm.
I want to ask you,
Hmm.
what do you think is something most people don't know about buying property that like everyone should know? What's like a hidden gem, or what do you feel like is like a barrier that people run into that you can share?
I think it's easier than you think. I think, it's sort of like a first time college student, the barrier that you have is just the application to the college. You just fill out the application. But you'd be surprised, a lot of these first time home buyers are sort of like first time college students. It's like, well, most people don't think they have enough income to buy a house, right? I mean, you could make about, say, you make about $50,000 a year. You could get you a $200,000 loan off that. You can get, and that $200,000 can get you a home. So I think most people self-select out of buying property. I think most people's mindset is that property um, is is something that is not it's too much work. Um, that's the second thing, and maybe a third thing I want to just add is that most people look at real estate as a property for them to live in and grow their, which it is. But I also want to encourage more people to look at property as an asset where you can generate income from it and establish retirement. And retirement is not, in my opinion, not an age like we retire at 65. I think most Americans think about that. Retirement, in my opinion, is it's called the 25 times rule. So whatever your monthly expense is times 12, you know, times 25. So right, if you're making $3,000, if you need 3,000 a month to live times 12, we're looking at what, 36,000 times 25. I think that's around 600,000. So you need $600,000 in assets. So you need to buy $600,000. You need to have that much of your assets worth 600,000 to maintain the lifestyle that you need for 3,000 a month, which basically means that your assets that's worth 600,000 is going to pay you $3,000 a month, at least that, so you can retire early. So you can retire now if you have that much.
All right, so let's dive into this a little bit. First thing I want to go over that you just said is the concept of your retirement. Most people don't understand the concept of net worth. So let's
Right.
start there. We're going to start net worth, we're going to go assets, we're going to go liabilities, and we're going to go retirement and being able to use those assets. So net worth, as I discussed in Remix Stay Broke, most of us are not introduced to this concept. Net worth is what you own versus what you owe. A lot of people right now have a negative net worth. They don't really own any assets outside of maybe their home and maybe some stocks through their work portfolio. That would be considered your assets. If you were to subtract your probably personal debt from that, most cases you come with a negative number. That doesn't matter because now at least you understand the concept of net worth. You know what your economic value is, what you are worth financially. You want to now turn that into a positive number. And the way you do that, like Lawless was just describing, is that you want to acquire assets, things that you own that are worth value and that also pay you. So a stock, you can own stocks for a certain amount of value and they have what's called dividends. Each quarter, if that company pays a dividend, it will give you cash as well as you still own it with the value that it has. This increases your net worth. If you have $100,000 in stocks and you're getting a kickoff of $2,000 each time they do a dividend, now you have an asset that pays you outside of your job and it increases your net worth. Similarly, if you own a piece of property, if you use money from a hard money lender, pay for that real estate, help someone live in that house because it's your second piece of real estate, and now that person is able to pay rent. That rent pays the mortgage as well as a little bit more cash flow to you as an asset. Also, you own something that is worth a lot of money. And as the mortgage continues to get paid through that rent, the equity, I know you love equity, I'll just talk about that in a second, the equity in that house begins to increase, which is the same concept, what you owe on that house versus how much that house is worth. When that space increases, if you were to sell that house, that's how much money you would make. That's the equity. Equity is really the point of a real estate deal, whether you're getting the cash flow as the rent is getting paid, or you own that asset and you're able to sell it, or if you just hold on to it and that equity increase, it increases your net worth. And that's what we're really trying to help people understand and get to as a larger concept, is that you do have an economic value that you can be in deliberate control of. It's just no one explains it to you this way, and that's why we're trying to. Do you want to talk about equity and assets now?
Yeah, absolutely. Equity is my love language. you know, and equity, it's a broad word, and it can be applied to not only finances, but other aspects of society like education. Equity is a very important word. Taps into value. And so one of the things that I do for myself and with others is I focus on increasing the equity that you have through purchasing real estate, right? Over time, your equity will increase. So if you're buying one property and maybe your property has 50,000 in equity, over time it's going to increase to 75,000 in equity, and then, one cool thing about equity is that you actually become the bank. So you can borrow from your equity to buy other assets, and that's something that we need to have more access to equity, so we can become our own banks. At least the properties that we own become our own banks, and you could borrow from your equity to fund other businesses. Maybe you have a cool idea to start a hot sauce company or a beverage brand or something.
Let's dial that a little more specific. So what you're saying is, I can have my primary residence. I can do like you said, have $50,000. I can go find out that through applying, I actually qualify for a $200,000 house. I can then own that property, and over the course of 5-6 years, I've been paying my mortgage. Now my house has equity. You're saying with that equity, I can then apply to get another property to start my rental business, but because I have the equity in that house, it will be used and help me get another property. Is that a way I can start to do real estate investing?
Yes, absolutely. And one thing I would add to that is, when you buy your first house, buy a multifamily. That way, the tenant is actually paying the mortgage. And again, you'll still have the benefit of having that equity over time, and then you can borrow from that equity and buy a second or third multifamily from that equity, and then you could actually live for free. Right? You want to like eliminate your housing expense. Yeah, go ahead and buy your first multifamily property. Let the tenant pay for it. Let your property increase equity. borrow from that equity. Some banks allow you to borrow 90% of your primary home. So, borrow it and buy another multifamily. In fact, I would recommend buying a distressed multifamily. Do the Burr method, where you buy a distressed multifamily, renovate it, rent it, then refinance with a traditional bank, and then repeat. That's what the Burr method is. The reason why I recommend buying a distressed property is because you get more appreciation when you develop something that's distressed versus buying something that's already renovated.
All right, cool. So let's dive into those two concepts real quick. We're going to talk about appreciation and we're going to talk about refinancing. So when you talk about refinancing, it's the same concept we were just talking about, where you have your equity and then you're able to use it to buy another house. But what you can do is, when you have enough equity in your house, most people know this as a home equity loan. This loan is given to you. Some people use it to then improve the kitchen, improve the house, and make their house better. But what you're saying is, you can own a piece of property, create the equity, apply for the home equity loan, get the loan, and then use that money to go and buy another property while the tenant still pays down the mortgage. So the money that you get from that home equity loan, it doesn't really cost you anything. And because it's a loan, there's no taxes on it. So you get the money from the equity, and then you still allow the tenant to keep paying that back down even after you've got the equity pulled out of the property. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you're borrowing from the equity, when you buy another property, especially a multifamily property, the tenants in that second property are paying down the note on the first property and the home equity line of credit. You want to make sure the math is profitable for you, and that's it. Math is pretty basic.
And we can help. We can help anybody with that. You want to DM us, you want to ask any questions.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we're here for. We're going over the broad concepts right now. But if you watch this video, you get to this point, and you want to DM Lawless or DM me, or hit us up on the wall, we're here to help. So let's go over.
Can I
appreciation.
add something to that?
Oh, sure, please.
On Wednesday from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m., I'm having a lunch and learn.
I'll be on.
At my brokerage, and I'm actually inviting Jim Kyle, the vice president of Gulf Coast Bank. He is a seasoned veteran for lending to investors who buy multifamily properties or even do renovation projects. So you want to have relationships with lenders. So I'm actually hosting this lunch and learn, and I'm hoping for it to be, a monthly thing where I share knowledge, I share skills, I share relationships, so that you can start piecing together your strategy, your pathway to wealth. You have to piece, your pathway to wealth. I'm here. I'm a conductor on a, I feel like Harriet Tubman. I feel like I'm helping people. I'm a conductor. I'm introducing you relationship skills, markets as well. So feel free to DM me, call me, because there is inequality in America. America is not the most equal place, but I feel like if we have more access to equity, then we can start to, kind of right some of those wrongs.
I think the best part about that is, at your lunch and learn, there's a lender and an agent right there in front of you.
Yeah.
So you got two key team members that you would need to be able to acquire a property and be able to get the money for a property right there teaching you, and you can reach out to them and you can ask them right there. I mean, that's what we have to start doing is, like I said before, deciding to ask. You have to be willing to ask. There is no failure. There's only learning. I remember I used to go low key to the real estate investing meetings.
Yeah.
I used to go in there, put my glasses on, put my little sweater on, sit in the back, pay the $20 to go in there and just listen and talk to people and understand more and more what was going on. I'd go week after week. It was every Thursday night. I'd show up, sit down. This is when I was in my early 20s and just grinding and really trying to learn. I would go home and I'd read a book. I'd hear something about real estate, then I'd go to the meeting and I'd ask a question. I'd ask a question. And
Mm-hmm.
some people were forthcoming and some people were kind of tight with it. And that was cool because they had taken the same time to learn the information. And so they paid their good money for it. You know, I think us coming from where we come from, like you said, on a Harriet Tubman mentality, the same reason why I wrote Real Estate Broke is we understand what it's like to not know what you don't know. So it's hard for you to ask. You see, when you're ignorant of something, you do not know what you're missing. And I think that's the biggest, barrier for a lot of people to be able to do the things that we have been able to do, because I got introduced to Real Estate Broke. My dad was in real estate. You know what I mean? Like my mom taught me things as I was growing up, and these sparked the little curiosities to go in those ways of something that I didn't know. But when people are unaware that they are unaware, they need people like us. They need these meetings. You have to be willing to be curious. You have to step out on faith. You got to have that walk on water faith, you know?
Right.
Like you got to take that leap and say, I'm capable. And that's something I really believe in, is deliberate self-improvement and being able to say, I'm capable of becoming capable. That's, I feel like, the great motivator is not, can I do it? It's, can I become capable of doing it? And when you answer that yes, then you're motivated, because you know that within you is the ability to continue to understand things as you accumulate more and more knowledge. So I really hope people, like they're here today, come to what you're putting on and take more and more steps, because the more you learn, the more you're going to become confident. The more you're going to say, you know, I'm really able to get this better than I thought I was going to be able to get it. You know, like I said, I remember the first time I called a real estate agent, talked to her, put in an offer on a property. And I mean, man, I had no money. I was living in an apartment with no bedroom. My mattress is in the closet. You know what I mean? I was broke, man, working for the Air Force, working for DOD, but I was, you know, a young man. I had 2 kids. I was on child support. Like, I didn't know what I was going to do, but real estate was like, man, this is how I'm going to try and fix this. You know, I believe. And I remember the first time I called a real estate agent, asked her about a property. She gave me the address and gave me the lock code to go into the house. So I drove over to the house myself, walked in, put the lock code in, walked in, and I was like, thank you, God. I did. I was like, thank you, God, because I felt it becoming real. Like I'm in a property that's vacant, that doesn't have anything in here. I'm analyzing this property right now, but because I believed and because I took the steps, like, here I am, and now on to the next step. And it became more and more real. I turned myself into a real estate investor. No one just came and was like, boom, here you are. You have to believe you are on your own first, seek the knowledge and become that thing, and you will be that thing, you know?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. One thing I want to add to that, because, you know, you don't have to be a real estate agent to be a real estate investor.
Good point.
In fact, most real estate agents don't know how to invest.
Better point.
You know, it's just, you know, most real estate agents sell you a property at the highest price because they're trying to get the highest commission, right? So it's important to have discernment between who is a real estate agent who is investor friendly versus a real estate agent who is selling you a home, selling you a dream, which is something, if you want that dream home, that's fine, you know. But if you're getting into real estate investment, you want to have a real estate agent who actually has relationships with wholesalers. And that's something I want to bring up. You want to have some relationships with some wholesalers, people who have some deals because they're calling properties directly. And I wanted to mention this at my Lunch and Learn. I've invited a wholesaler. He's going to be there. So, yeah, I mean,
so let's
he's going
dive
to have
into
deals right there. You know, like,
what is a wholesaler? I know, like, sometimes we get caught up using terms that we know. Let's make sure people understand. So if you're a real estate investor, you have to find properties. In order to be able to have something to flip, you need a house to flip. And I brought my sons with me to look at tons of properties. My son Mark will tell you that we've walked in all kind of, even from when he was really, really young, you know. And that's when I was a wholesaler. So a wholesaler, and I know that you see all kind of BSIG, come wholesale real fast. Learn. I hated that when I was a young investor, because you want real knowledge. You don't need all this fluffy crap, man. Books, us, like YouTube, you can learn the real way to acquire properties and then flip them. So a wholesaler is someone who gets a house under contract that they can't afford. Okay. They, for the most part, right? People like, I wholesale even though I can't afford it now. But back when I was starting, this was the way that I got into real estate when I didn't have the credit, the money, or the savings to be able to do it. You put a house under contract, you are then put the earnest money down. Earnest money is like not so much a down payment, but it's the money you pay to keep the house off market so no other offers come in. So you put an offer in for the house, you put the earnest money down, and then you now own the property, or you have control of the property for 30 days until you close. When you have that house, you then, as a wholesaler, market that house to somebody like myself or Lawless, somebody who can take that house and do more with it than you. So say the house is listed for $100,000. It has a lot of stuff wrong with it. So it's listed. Well, you can get it for about 70 or 80,000. You put that offer in because you see it has HVAC, roof, plumbing. It has problems, right? You don't have the money to fix those problems, but bigger investors do have the money. So say the house is listed for 100,000. I can get it for 70 to 80,000 dollars, but I don't have to pay that. I just have to show that I will pay that. And I can, like we said, hard money lender, somebody who backs me with money can let me go to the real estate agent, show the money. They say, okay, you're going to buy it. I say, yes, I'm going to buy it, but I don't have to because I know I'm going to sell it to a big investor. This is wholesaling. I put that house under contract, and then I contact I contact a Lawless, and I say, hey, look, I have this house for $70,000 to $80,000. If you only put $10,000 into it, it'll then be worth 110. Remember, it was listed at 100. We got it for 70 or 80. I'm going to sell it to me or Lawless for about, say I got it at 80. I'm going to sell it for 85. I'll make me a quick $5,000 because now me or Lawless can see by the numbers, even if I put 85 in it, then I put 10 on top of that, making my total 95. When it goes back to market and it's worth 115, 120, there's my money. So if you can show me the money I will make after you sell it to me and I put a little money in to fix it and I see my profit, my equity, I'm going to buy that deal from you. That's what wholesalers do. That's how people who are just getting started in real estate begin to make chunks of money in the business. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yes. I want to ask you, because how do you get that deal, right? As a wholesaler, don't you have to call people and sometimes you have to knock on people's doors?
Yeah. So I look, there's different ways. You can look for houses that are for sale by owner. So they have a sign out there that says for sale by owner. You can talk to your real estate agent. You can say to a real estate agent, because they work for you until they get the commission. You don't have to pay a real estate agent up front. And you don't have to be a real estate agent yourself to sell your own property. You have to be a real estate agent to sell property for other people and be the middle person. But if I have control of that property and it's in my name and I want to sell to somebody else, I don't need a license. So I can call a real estate agent, tell them I want to be able to buy properties. I can talk to my mom, talk to an older person that I know, talk to somebody, one of my rich friends who doesn't know about real estate, but I do. I can say, hey, just let me use a bank statement. Let's partner on this deal. All I need to do is show the bank that we're working together. You can see how much money I have, and they'll say, okay, you can afford this house when you get ready to buy it. Now, I don't want to buy it. I want to acquire it and sell it to somebody else. So now I'm calling a real estate agent. I'm saying, send me houses that I can look at. And I teach, and Lawless can show you how to analyze a property to get to the numbers that I was talking about a second ago. You can look at the house, see what's wrong with it, see the neighborhood, see the other houses that have been sold, and come up with the numbers to know if it's going to be a good deal or a bad deal. Once I know it's going to be a good deal for the investor above me, and I can see enough spread to put a little bit on top of for myself of what I bought it for before I give it to them, then I know it's a good deal. And those are the kind of deals that I look for. I get on the computer, I go to Zillow, I go to whatever, Trulia, I go look at the tax assessor website. There is a plenty of ways to find properties, and you can learn how to do that from me. You can learn how to do that on the internet, whatever you want to do. But you go and you find houses and you learn how to analyze them. Once you're able to analyze them and you can see the money, that's what you want to be able to see. You want to be able to see the equity. Once you can see, if I get it for this, if I add this amount to it construction-wise, it'll be worth this amount because the other houses in the neighborhood that were newer sales sold at this price. Right. What is the difference between this house and those houses? How can I make this house like that house? Do the numbers for me to make this house like that house leave enough spread for the investor to get it after he buys it from me. That's what I'm looking for. So I go and I drive for him. Driving down the neighborhood. It's called driving for dollars. I can call a real estate agent, have them send them to me in an email. I can talk to other wholesalers.
Other wholesalers.
Other wholesalers.
Right.
There are plenty of ways to find properties once you know what you're looking for. And then once you know what you're looking for, it's all over the place. I remember when I first started getting into real estate, I started seeing my drives completely different than the way I used to drive. You know, for sale by owner signs start popping up because now I can see with my mind's eye opportunity. You know, it wasn't just somebody else's house. Opportunity is not seen with the eye, it's seen with the mind's eye. My knowledge made that something that I knew I could take advantage of. And so just to answer your question, you find the houses by one, learning what you're looking for, then going and try and do it. And then you start having some come to you and you're like, whoa, now I'm gonna analyze them. You analyze them and then you try to make something happen, you know?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to add to that of, you know, here in New Orleans area, you know, we live around a lot of blighted property. Write the address down. Go on the assessor's website, figure out who the owner is. There's an app on my phone that I use. The name of the app is Forewarn app. You can just, it's $20 a month to get a subscription. You put the address in the Forewarn app. It'll give you the phone number to the owner. Call the owner. Send the owner a letter saying that you buy property. And that's how you get the best deals, when you just, you know, see a property that may be distressed or blighted in your neighborhood, on your drive to and from work, or just around the neighborhood. And just write a list of different properties that, you know, look interesting to you. And like I said, you could call them directly. That's one way of finding deals. Another way is, you know, working with really hiring a wholesaler. Get as many as your team as you can. Let them send you deals. They're gonna want to make a $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 spread, but that's cool. You could also negotiate, knock them down on their prices. You want to holler at real estate agents. You want to work with a real estate agent that's investor friendly, so that they're showing you deals. There's not, you know, usually when a property gets on the MLS, it's going to be, you know, a little higher, you know, because there's a lot of people looking at that deal. It's sort of public now on the MLS. But if you're an investor, you want to employ all strategies to find a good deal. Once you find a good deal, then you have to like evaluate, run the numbers. So there's different ways that you run the numbers. You want to holler at me, give me a call. I have a simple investment analysis tool that I help build an Excel spreadsheet. So I just plug and play, put the numbers in an Excel spreadsheet. When I was first starting off, you know, 15 years ago, whatever, 10 years ago, you know, about 15 years ago, like I bought my house 13 years ago, but it took me like 2 years just to like think about how to evaluate a deal. And I was putting in offers and losing out. But I used to just do things by the gut back in the day, like, oh yeah, I can make $500 a month or $800 a month, and I would just sort of like do it in my head. But eventually I started using an Excel document that really kind of captures very specific things like cap rate. What is capitalization rate? A lot of people don't know what that means. What's cash on cash return? That's another you know, tool. So I have all of these in an Excel spreadsheet. And so you know, work with me. We can work together. I'm an agent, so I help people build wealth through real estate investing and development. So yeah, man. So yeah, I'm excited about it. I got into this a long time ago, but I'm excited to be in this.
But look at what you said, like, you know, how you started out in the beginning was just by the gut. You started, and look at you now. You were in it, then you became an agent. Now you help other investors. Now you develop property. You have people who you could buy a land plot and you could develop. The more you stay with this, the more you, and then let me make and I want to make a big point here. I used to think that this was huge. When I was discovering these things, I remember one time I was listening to a book, 50th Law. I also was listening to The Real Book of Real Estate. I was listening to this book called the Real Estate Investing 101. And as I was listening to these books, I'm having epiphany after epiphany. I'm like, wow, 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 wow. And the more I learned, the more I started going higher and higher, I started realizing that there are people that do this like it's child's play. Like they learned this way before, like we're discovering it as an adult. When certain people were able to ride in the car with their mom and dad when they were younger in other communities and be taught this just willy-nilly, like just riding in the car, giving properties transferred down to them in trust, having property signed over to them that they don't even respect or do the right thing with, and it goes to tax sale or it goes to probate or something, because it's so common that they're just getting it. So I want you to understand that this is high level, high value, but it's completely doable because people are doing it every single day. You just don't know about it because the model that you were given for success just involved a job or another job. And so your mind can't go to using property to be able to create an additional stream of income, right? You just be like, oh man, I need more money. I got to get a job or I got to use my credit. When you flip it around, the other people are going to create a job or they're going to use their credit to get the property. They use credit like a superpower. People use credit to catch up on, things that they can't afford. There are other people that use credit as a superpower. They say, I'm going to borrow this money. I'm going to purchase this asset. I'm going to turn a profit, give you your money back, and I'm going to be able to have money from doing that thing. I leveraged that money to make me more money. I used it as a tool, not as a safety net or a catch-all, and that's the kind of turn we're trying to help you to understand, that these things are available to you once you start using them in the way that others have been using them for years. And we want to help more people become property owners, help more people have assets, help more people in the community be able to fight gentrification by being part of the investment community that betters your community. You don't have to feel like your community is being taken away from you. If you're the one who's deciding to improve it, you get a couple of your friends. Y'all all learn about real estate together. You get smarter together. You put your assets together. You put your money together. You put your credit together, and you can start to do properties together. It's completely doable once you take the steps. I mean, like, look at how we're having this conversation right now. Like, we started off as two high school saxophone players. Investment conversation. Who would have ever thought that we were marching up the ramp at Tad Gormley Stadium, that 20 years later we'd own real estate, have businesses, and be able to teach people about that? I know I didn't when I was riding on the bus with my saxophone, but that's how you can see it's completely possible.
Absolutely. I think one thing that as I've grown in this space, I've learned to what I'm really engaging in and also encouraging my community to engage into is stop trading time for money. You don't get wealthy through working longer or harder hours. You get wealthy through trading money for money. So you can take an asset, leverage that asset to buy more assets that's going to give you more income. Because one thing about life is that it's fragile. We can get sick. Sometimes I don't feel like it working. Sometimes I we're gonna have to retire at some point. I mean, we're in our 30s now, but I mean, eventually we're gonna be up in age in our 80s. So it's sort of like we can't use our bodies like when we get older. So why not use these assets, leverage these assets to generate income? So we don't have to quote unquote go to work. That's just like a concept. I think we're often drilled, work hard. But I really think you gotta, in order to become wealthy, invest smart.
I think it's double. So I think one thing I had to really realize when I first started doing this was, in order for me to reach the masses, to reach a lot of people, most of the people I'm talking to gonna still have their job, and they're gonna have their job probably for 3 or 4 years while I still teach them. And so I try to make sure that they understand that this process starts with income. So I agree with your point. I even used to try and teach that point, and I still do. My whole Read Me or Stay Broke is about making that transition from being somebody who has to work all the time to understand that other people have cash flowing assets, that their money comes from passive income somewhere else besides just working. But I also encourage them to use that work income as your capital.
Absolutely.
Save some of what you're making from your job. Use what you're making from your job to improve your credit. Use what you have to decrease your debt, and then become qualified. Low debt, intentionally raise credit, and some savings will then allow you to qualify to step over into the making money model. And then for a little while, you're still going to be doing both, right? You're going to have your job while you have your first rental. You're going to have your job. I remember one time when I was working at the Air Force Base, I was going to buy a property. And when I got to the property on lunch break, so I used to hustle, man. I used to go to look at properties on my lunch break and then come back to work. I remember one time I got in my shirt and tie that I had brought in my car because I knew I was going to go look at a property. And when I got to the property, the person that was going to sell it was one of my coworkers.
Wow.
Right? And it was funny because he didn't want to sell it to me then, right? Because he had a vision of me that was under him. He had a vision of me that that's not possible. Like, Mark, you're here. You're gonna buy the house. Yeah, I'm here. I'm smart. I'm knowledgeable. I've been reading. I've been getting it.
Yeah.
I'm here. What's up? What's up? You know what I mean? But he didn't want to sell it to me, which was cool because I got the validation of the fact of the look on his face.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, see, that's interesting point that you talk about. He didn't want to sell it to you, you know, because of, I guess, in the military there's some hierarchy there. Or
so
why do you think?
This is when I was working at the Department of Defense. So I was not in the Air Force anymore, but I was working for the Air Force. But we were both like similar coworkers as aircraft mechanics.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So he didn't want to sell it to you. That's so strange to me. I don't understand why.
Well, I mean, he saw himself as who he saw himself as, and at work he saw me for who I was. But like I said, I was transitioning, right? Just how people right now who are listening to us can begin to take the steps to become more financially educated and then start to begin to acquire assets. That's what I was doing. But he would only see me in my coveralls, dripping with oil, cranking along on the wing. And so when lunchtime comes, wash my hands, put my shirt and tie on, and he thought he was going to meet whoever he was going to meet. And yeah, I'm here with my other skill set and my other knowledge base besides fixing airplanes. And I'm here to do some business. But for him, that broke his paradigm of how he viewed me and how he viewed himself versus me, which was cool because I went on to do more and more deals. But it was a satisfying feeling for me because it let me know that I had reached another level.
Right, another mindset. And I think that's interesting. You just said it sort of broke his mentality of who you are, which is why in this country, you know, we live in a country that's, you know, not based on equality. You know, like, I don't believe, like, you know, this, you know, it's the home of the free, but it ain't equal. So I feel like equity, you know, when we have access to equity, now people gonna look at you different. You know, you gonna look at yourself different. You know, like, you know, because knowledge is power. It's sort of the reason why, you know, in our culture 200-300 years ago, they wouldn't allow us to read. Because the more we read, the more we know. And the more we know, the more we do.
Lawless. You got me hyped, bro. No, because look, this is my spot right here. This is my spot. Financial discrimination is the only legal form of discrimination. So what I'm saying is, right to your point, it's not equal, but guess what? Once you got the knowledge, they can't stop you, dog. If you got the money, right? If you got the money, you got the knowledge, you understand what you're doing, the anti-discrimination laws prevent them from stopping you no matter what you look like, no matter what you got going on. Like, they operate in ink and green. And if I know how to get down on this ink, and if I know how to give you that green, you can't tell me nothing. But it's only when we don't understand how to do the deal, we don't understand how to, that's why they keep us, not all right, it's not a particular person, but the way the system is structured overall, over the time, right? Not just in particular to us as a community, but just in general, because there's many financially ignorant people in the public school system as they come through, and financial education is something that is broken up into many pieces. As I was doing my study, I started getting books. There's a book on debt. There's a book on credit. There's a book on taxes. There's no cohesive book. And that's what made me write Read Me or Stay Broke. What is the formula? What is the actual formula for a person to be able to get wealthy? And once you know that formula, once you know how to qualify, because all it is, being able to walk into a place where you want something, a property, a business loan, to buy some stocks, once you understand what you're doing and you qualify, there are no barriers except for maybe how much it costs. And you're working your way and leveling up to being able to afford more and more. But the door is no longer shut because the door is open with knowledge. Like you said, knowledge is power. The door is open with knowledge. That's why when I got into that house and I was looking around, it was empty, I felt empowered because I was like, I knowledged my way into this house. When I flipped my first house, I flipped it on my birthday. It looked at how God lined it up. You know, the sale went through on my birthday.
Yeah.
And so I was like, man, like, look at how just putting in this grind
Yeah.
is paying off, right?
Right.
So to your point, there's no equality, but you can, to be honest, you can create your own equality by coming to the situation qualified. And if you're not qualified right now, that's fine, because I teach people how to do it. Read Me or Stay Broke will teach you how to do it. Your own independent study will teach you how to do it. You'll help people do it. But it's there. There's a lane right here where if you have low debt, you have intentionally high credit by knowing what makes your score go up, knowing what makes your score go down, purposefully getting it up, and then having a little bit of savings so you can hit that down payment, man, it's wide open.
Right.
Do what you want to do. And if you don't have those things, you could borrow them from somebody else.
Right.
You could work with, you could use your knowledge with this person's money or credit and say, let's do this together. You have the qualification, I have the understanding, let's do this. Right? That's completely possible. And so I just wanted to share that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, and I look at real estate as one brick in the, foundation of financial wealth. Another brick is investing in stocks. And then another brick is having your own business, like a separate business, which is sort of why
let me ask you about your business. Let me ask you about your business. So tell me about your business.
Well, I have a passion for food and beverage and drinking. So
so how did you get into the food and beverage business?
So so long story short, I'm from New Orleans. I come from a capital of good food.
Yes, sir.
And so sometime like around 2003, my father started a food business where he started selling a breaded oyster, like a packaged pre-breaded oyster. And I saw him do this. I think I was coming out of around, like, I think it was 2001 actually. So I was coming out of 2001. I was coming out of high school, and he started this oyster business, right? And so I saw him grow it over the years, and then I started working with him. I probably started working with him around 2011, and we would go to all these different conferences. And I saw he, took a breaded oyster business, and he started selling it to a lot of chain restaurants. One restaurant was Long John Silver's, a food service business. So I got involved just learning from him how to package a product and how to distribute one. So recently, I started my own beverage business. It's a kombucha. I know some of you guys may have heard of kombucha, but it's a millennial soda. That's what they call it, the millennial soda, because it's the younger generation is trending more healthy. But it's a $2.5 billion marketplace that's rising to a $7 billion marketplace. Not a lot of companies in that space. It's a niche. It's a niche within the beverage space. It's called the performance beverage industry. So I decided to, jump into that lane. So I started my own kombucha business. It's called June Magnolia, but I use a little bit of a different sauce. I use green tea and I use honey. So it's actually a subcategory of kombucha called Jun. And so it's a niche within a niche. So I started this business and we're scaling up this year. You'll be able to, we'll be able to do some subscription boxes. And that's my goal this year I'm working with a manufacturer, and there's different steps to go from.
How can we Can we try some June Magnolia?
Yeah, well, there's a couple stores here in New Orleans. Rabbit's Foot Nola, you can pick it up at on 2424 Britannia, and also Coffee Science at 410 South Broad. Again, everything is sort of handcrafted right now. In my kitchen by me, I handcrafted. But soon I'm scaling it up with some manufacturers so that you can get it anywhere in the world.
You came up with the recipe.
I came up with the recipe, yeah.
Man, now you gotta get on that. Shoot my bottle up here.
Yeah, and there's a process even with that. Just to, it took about 4.5 years to really kind of come to the recipe. But again, it's basically a testimony about entrepreneurship, that whether you're in real estate investing or development, whether you're developing your own brand of whatever it is, it could be a beauty product or a food and beverage product. Greatness, takes time. You have to give yourself time to develop a product, to develop a brand. It's not overnight. To develop the knowledge, whether it's, like I said, real estate investment, you gotta, or developing a brand, you really have to do the research, sort of like, seek and you will find. You have to actually create the value over time, and then share it with the world, and then, and share it with others. And the law of reciprocation comes in. Whatever you give, you're going to receive. So
let me ask you this though. So just for people to understand, when you're starting out your business, the same way that it is with real estate, you do not have to have all these big tons of money to start a business. When I started my first business with real estate, and then I started my second business with consulting and coaching and teaching people, I'm the product. That you can have a business that simple. My knowledge is my product. I sell that to people all the time. I help them understand the same way I'm helping y'all right now. I get paid to do this, to take the time out, hours, to really sit down, make a plan, and work with somebody. But I didn't have to own a building. I didn't have to hire employees. All I had to do was get the LLC, get the EIN, right? So the limited liability corporation, or whatever type of business entity I wanted. I could go down to the Secretary of State. It's cheaper than you think. Most of the time when I ask people, I say, how much do you think it to start a business? I always get the same round number, $10,000. People always say that, about $10,000, about $10,000. What if I told you it's $100? Depending on what your product is, $100 to get the articles of organization to be able to have a business. Then make sure you understand tax rates, hire a CPA. They're not even expensive. You just don't use one, right? You go to a CPA, $150 to do your taxes for the year, So you collect your money, then you go pay your taxes. But all I'm saying is, being able to start a business with a vision and a drive is more accessible than you think. And if you want to do something bigger, the qualification aspect that we had inside of the real estate is the same qualification level for being able to start a business. Once you qualify, the financial discrimination melts away. The access to be able to do things goes away. And now you're able to take those steps, take those leaps. Like you said, fail, have 4 years. Do you know how long it took for me to make people realize I wasn't just an aircraft mechanic? Like, I can have a consulting business, I can have this knowledge, but do you agree with me that I'm smart enough to help people? That's a brand building thing. The same way you build out your drink. And now, 10 years later, people hit me up all the time. Mark, help me with this, help me with that. I read your book, so on and so forth. But I started off just working on an airplane. So whether you're working a register right now, sitting at your desk, at home, whatever you're doing, there is something that you know or something you can learn that you can turn into an additional income stream as a business. And it doesn't take as much as you think it takes to be able to do that. I just want to share that point.
Yeah, it definitely takes years of study and research. But again, the three things I like to focus on building wealth are real estate investing and development, stocks, and having your own business. For me, I invest in multifamily properties. We do development. I've done some development rehabs, and I invest in stocks. And you got to get mentors, people out there that know more than you, and go to their classes. And then I also have a beverage business, June Magnolia, the champagne and kombucha. So you want to have those three things in line. Um, I'm here. I'm here based in New Orleans. Anyone who knows me knows that on and off the court, I love to help anybody with their dreams of being an investor or developing their own business. Um, so if you need that, just send me a DM, call or text me, and you know, I'm gonna do my best to share my skills or knowledge as well as resources. It's all about relationships.
Yeah.
And so that's very important, just relationships. You got to have relationships
No,
um,
sure.
with multiple different people to make your dreams come true.
And how can we get your drink? Do you have an Instagram page for that as well, right?
Yeah, June Magnolia, you can get at jun.magnolia on Instagram. And in a couple of stores here based in New Orleans, Coffee Science on North Broad and 410 North Broad and Rabbit's Foot on Britannia. Those are two small coffee shops here in New Orleans. But again, just sort of, there's a scale up. I'm working with a manufacturer based in Colorado to scale up to like 60,000 units so that I can get that out to the people. I know the people have been waiting. I know y'all been waiting for that product, but just hit me up. And if you're in New Orleans or the Louisiana area and you want to do some real estate investing and development, create value in this state, because we need that. I encourage them, but I don't look at it as competition. I look at it as collaboration. We need
Yeah, got
more
to.
real estate developers and investors in this state
Yes.
so that we can, go from, this state has a lot of poverty. So we got to go from where we are to a lot better, man. We gotta do better. And so we just got to get our mindset right
That's why I wrote Real Estate Broke, man, because I felt like
and make it happen.
we didn't have the financial education to be able to cooperate. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
my goal is to help people get out of the situation they're in right now, but then even more so, the next generation that's coming. Like my younger siblings and my children.
Mm-hmm.
That those two generations, I want them to be financially educated before we were.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Right.
and I remember thinking to myself, in you know houses or growing up, books like Rich Dad Poor Dad or books like The Greatest Man in Babylon or these books about money knowledge, like they weren't readily accessible. Like I couldn't just go pull it off the bookshelf, and even when I went to the library, I didn't know what to look for it. And so I wrote Real Estate Broke. So not only could parents read it, but they could give it to their kids. And I do seminars, and I work with schools, and I go and I talk to children. I work with 100 Black Men of America. I've worked with the Jack and Jill Foundation. I've worked with Deltas. I've worked with Sigmas. Like I've worked with these organizations to pump this financial education into the younger generation so that they can collaborate, like you said, faster. Because if I'm smart and you're smart, then we don't have to worry about the shadiness. I don't have to worry about, what you're going to write in the contract that I can't see. Like, how the music deals used to be back in the day when the artist would come and get put on and then come to find out because they didn't read the contract, they didn't know what they were doing. I want people to be able to be that smart. Like even in Real Estate Broke, the way I break down real estate, the way I break down stocks, the way I break down business is so that when you go to do these things, you have a full comprehension that's healthy and confident that no one is going to be able to do something that you don't understand. And I think with that understanding in a younger generation, even now as we all get it together, it creates a comfort level, right? Now I have a comfort level to engage with you that's not fearful, that's not anxious, because I'm not going to be surprised. I don't have to be worried. We're both working together for a mutual benefit. And it doesn't have to be, well, is they going to try and do 80-20? Is it going to be 90-10? Are they going to do this or do that? No, I understand. And I think if we can, like you said, knowledge is power, seek to understand. Like, what does it say in the Bible? And all that get understanding, So I think we're on to something good here, man. I think we could maybe do this next week sometime, maybe dial specific into something, maybe go through the transaction process of a property or go through developing a house or even some business steps, get something a little more specific. But as many people that were here today, thank you all for being here. I think this was wonderful. Thank you for taking the time to be here, and we're going to do this again. You'll see the flyer for it, and we're really you have any final thoughts, Lawless, you want to share?
Well, I just want to say thank you, Mark, for putting this on. I appreciate it. Just getting more into social media, just sharing. This year it's all about sharing, just knowledge, skills, uh, and just information, and as well as relationships with other people this year. At least that's my goal, is to continue to just give, pour in value into other people. Um, so I appreciate you putting this on. It's helping the both of us to kind of get out there and spread this message of
Yeah.
I like to call it and a friend of mine coined it, and I like to borrow it. This is the liberation arts.
There you
So we're
go.
we're conductors on this, and this liberation art. So I just want to say thank you, Mark.
Man, it's my pleasure. It's great to talk to you, man. I told you this the other day. I'm gonna say this here on everybody. Ever since I've been knowing you, you are one of the most brilliant people that I've known. I've always admired your
Appreciate
intelligence. I've always looked up to you. You inspired me to be a smarter person, even when I was younger. I didn't have older brothers. My older cousins and stuff didn't live around me. So St. Aug was where I found, a grandfather figure, where I found father figures, where I found brothers that could improve me. And I can definitely say that, like I said earlier, being 2 years younger than you and watching how you conducted yourself definitely showed me a way that I could be. It definitely showed me habits and a style of being that, sometimes as young black boys, I think our biggest downfall is coolness, right? We're shown coolness in a lot of ways, and sometimes coolness comes with a lot of self-destructive behaviors, whether that be drugs, rap, crime, being stupid, right? It's cool to be the dude that don't do your homework and stuff like that. And I can say when I was younger, I was kind of that guy. Like, I was smart enough to make B's and C's, and it was cool to just be like, man, I ain't do my homework last night, or I did it right before class, But seeing somebody like you rubbed off on me and helped me become a person who was more determined to be intelligent. You made intelligence cool, man. Because you were smart, but you also still had charisma. Normally you meet like the nerdy person. That's the archetype that they show us in movies and stuff. So you don't want to be a nerd, right?
Right.
Man, you was a person I met that was like, I'm smart, but I play saxophone. I'm cool. I can march. I got jokes. I got personality. So I'm like, oh wow, that's a thing to be. So I'm grateful to you for always, kind of setting the bar and having that kind of way about you that was able to rub off on me.
Man, look, I appreciate you, Mark, man. Like I said, I always knew you as a leader. You always stood out to me. You never was a follower. You became a leader, and I'm just proud of you, man. I mean, like I said, you my big brother in many ways, man. You a family man. You're a father. You know, um, you know, uh, uh, husband. And so I think that's admirable, man. And I'm just like I said, I appreciate you, man. I really do. So I'm gonna just keep doing, what I'm doing, and we just gonna keep shining. You're gonna keep
Yeah,
doing what you're doing. Let's just
we're gonna
keep
keep sharing this.
building, and just kind of shining our light on this world, man. Because there's a lot of negative energy out there, man. So let's just keep staying
We're going
positive
to.
and just
Let's
be an
do it.
example to these young folks out here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Let's do this again, man. Thank everybody for being here. I'm gonna go ahead and save this and put it on the page, man.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, dog.
All right, bro. Peace.